In 1975, a machine emerged from the shadows, built in secret with one clear and ruthless purpose: to seize the 250 World Championship. Once victory was won, it vanished almost without a trace. This is Harry Everts' legendary twin-carb Puch 250, the bike that stunned the Grand Prix world by unleashing an astonishing 52 horsepower from a single cylinder. Hi, my name is Terry Good, and I'm with the International Motocross Museum, and today's walk-around is about a bike that came into the spotlight suddenly and unannounced with one specific purpose: to win the 1975 250 World Championship. Once that objective was met, the bike vanished into history and hasn't been seen since until now. Perhaps no other bike in history has carried more mystique than Harry Everts' 1975 250 twin-carbureted Puch, better known as the twin-carb Puch. Puch built a total of 4 bikes and 6 engines for the entire 1975 GP season. 4 of those 6 engines went into the bike, so there was 2 spares. Harry received 2 bikes for the whole season, and the bike you see here was Harry's #1 Grand Prix race bike. We're going to do a complete walk around about this bike. We're going to show you some incredible details, and you're even going to hear the bike run. Harry filmed it running at his home in Belgium just before he shipped it to the States. But before we do that, I think the story is just as amazing as the bike, in my opinion. And so we're going to do a brief backstory as to how this all happened. You see, back in 1973, Johann Puch, the owner of the Puch factory, wanted to win the 250 World Championship in the worst way. And it really wasn't that uncommon for factories that didn't sell motocross bikes to want to win the World Championship. And the reason for that is that at that time, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a World Championship meant whatever your product, your company was selling, you were going to sell a lot more, and you were going to be put on a global map, basically. And so we can look back in history and we can see Husqvarna did this in the late 50s with the 4-strokes. They weren't selling motocross bikes back then, and they never did sell those 4-strokes. Monarch did the same thing. And also Lido. Lido is short for lithography. They used to make children's books. But to win the World Championship was extremely prestigious. And as I was preparing for this video, I remember a time when I was with Jackie Stewart, the famous Formula One driver, and Roger DeCoster. This was about 30 years ago, and the 3 of us were talking. And Jackie told me that while he was in the racing Formula One, world champion, he used to follow Roger DeCoster and Joël Robert's success on the Grand Prix circuit. That's how big the World Championships were at that time. So that kind of sets the predicate here for Mr. Puch's desire to win the World Championship and to have that under his belt. He had no intentions of ever selling a 250 motocross bike. What he did was he signed Harry Everts to a 3-year contract. Harry was an up-and-coming, very young Belgian rider. And Belgium, as we know, was ground zero for motocross for much of its history. So he signs Harry to a 3-year contract just to win the World Championship. Once that was, and if it was accomplished, that was the end. He had achieved his objective. So in 1973, Harry's given Puch's best bike. It was a fast bike, and he raced selected Grand Prix and international races in Belgium. Harry's breakout point in 73 came in the 1973 250 Swedish Grand Prix, where in the first moto, Harry got the whole shot and was leading it for the first 15 minutes.
Svenska deltävlingen i motocrossens VM 250 kubikklassen, och där gick starten. Ni ska hålla ögonen på nummer 23, västtysken Adolf Weil, nummer 14 Heikki Mikkola, men framförallt vår världsmästare i klassen Håkan Andersson som har nummer 25 på sin cykel. Men den som direkt har gått till ledningen där, det är nummer 3, Harry Everts från Belgien, östra delen av banan. Där går han ner i den andra gruppen och så upp på vad man kan kalla baksidan av banan, bakom publikplatserna.
Against the best in the world, on the best bikes in the world. Håkan Andersson on the new monoshock, Adolf Weil on the Mako, you had the Suzuki's. He was leading the world and it was showing his potential. Harry was proving to the world that he was fast enough to do this. Although if you asked him at that time, he would tell you he'd never had a chance to win the World Championship. So the 73 season ends with Harry finishing 14th overall in the 250 World Championships. And we move into 1974, and Puch, by the way, Mr. Puch, the department or the race team that was assigned to do this consisted of only 8 people, including the riders, the team manager, the engineers. That was the size of the team. So now we move into 1974. Harry has a better bike now. He's doing very well in the Grand Prix. And he comes up with this breakout watershed moment at the 9th round at Hyvinkää, Finland. Harry wins his first Grand Prix of his entire career. He sure made a mark and established himself as one of the top GP riders. In fact, he matched that performance at the last race at Wallen, Switzerland, where he won that Grand Prix too. Now that the 250 Grand Prix season is over, Harry went from 14th place overall to 3rd place overall in the 250 Grand Prix. Puch was very motivated by this, so much so that they sent him and the mechanic / team manager, Hans Kramer, to the United States with a 387 cc 4-speed Puch. Harry says that bike was so fast, they sent that combination to the United States for the 1974 Trans Am Series. I happened to go to the one at Honda Hills in Ohio, and to this day, I can remember the sound and the speed of Harry's open class Puch. It was unbelievable. And so Harry and Hans going through, they rented I believe it was a Ford van. They traveled the United States together. Both of them hardly spoke English. And Harry all of a sudden does real well in Texas. In fact, he might have even won one of the motos in the Texas round. And then his breakout point was near the end of the Trans Am Series at Puyallup, in Puyallup, Washington, where Harry won the overall against the best riders in the world. Roger DeCoster, Gerrit Wolfsink, all of them. Harry got the overall. He proved himself to be a force to be reckoned with. But now we go into 1975. So Harry's back in Belgium, and he has a 74 250 Grand Prix bike, and he's training and entering and winning international races in Belgium with that. But while all that was going on, one of those 8 people on the team, a man by the name of Hubert Binder, was one of the top engineers, and he had this idea of building an engine that would be so fast compared to anything else at the time, and it would make power at the low end of the power band and also at the top end of the power band. To do that, he used two carburetors. One was a piston port and the other was a rotary valve to achieve maximum horsepower at both ends of the power band. Harry had no idea this was going on. It started in late '74 and went into '75. And in early April, at the opening round of the 250 Grand Prix season at Sabadell near Barcelona, Spain, Harry drives down to Spain from Belgium, hasn't even seen his 250 GP bike, didn't even know about this twin carbureted bike that Hubert Binder was building. And Puch shows up with a van with this bike in it. Harry'd never ridden it before, didn't even know about it until 2 days before the Grand Prix. And when he saw the two carburetors, he was just totally blown away. Didn't even know what to say, he was speechless. To hear him tell the story, he tells it with the same enthusiasm now as he did then when it was happening. So he tested the bike the day before, and it was just unbelievably fast. In fact, Binder was there, and Binder told him that on the dynamometer, it produced 52 horsepower. Now contrast that with the 36 horsepower that the Grand Prix Yamaha of Håkan Andersson was putting out, and the Grand Prix Suzuki's of Joel Robert and Willie Bauer. 52 horsepower was just insane. So Harry went on to win the Grand Prix at Sabadell. He actually donated that trophy to the International Motocross Museum. We have that here. And all the pundits now favored Harry to win the World Championship that year in 1975. And he did it with this amazing bike here. He said it was the fastest 250 he'd ever ridden. He recalls a story at the Belgian Grand Prix at Ratin. He says, I remember passing with ease 4 riders in one straightaway. It was just an amazing feat. Anyway, Harry won the World Championship that year, and that was the end of it. He was without a ride. There was no intentions of going on to 76. Mr. Puch did offer a consolation. They built just under 100 replica Puchs of this bike. They're called Harry Everts replicas, and they are very rare. There were less than I think there were 96 made. And I don't know how many exist, but I know they go for a lot of money now. But those bikes, compared to this one, it's not even in the same league. In fact, Mr. Puch pulled this bike. Harry had his number 2 bike. This bike remained at the factory, and Harry was given 2 Harry Everts replicas. Now, just to show you the difference between the replica that looks similar to this, no question. From 50 feet away, if you really don't know what you're looking at, you'd think they might be the same. This bike puts out 52 horsepower. It's full of titanium, magnesium. It's right at the FIM weight limit. It was the lightest bike on the circuit that year, but the replica weighs almost 20 pounds more. Only puts out 40 horsepower. Instead of the Works suspension that this one has, the Works conies and the very special Marzocchi front forks that we'll learn about in the walk-around, 40 horsepower, 20 pounds heavier, you're starting to get the picture. And the bike didn't perform anywhere near as good as the Works bike. One interesting point before we do our walk-around. There were 2 500 GP riders looking for a ride. I'm not going to name their names yet because I'm not 100% sure that these were the 2, but this story came to me from Harry, and it came to him from one of the engineers that worked there. This bike was in the race shop And those two guys that were looking for a sponsorship for 1976 came back there, and they were inquiring about a ride and asked if they could test this. They thought this was the 400, basically because of the size of the cylinder. It has a massive cylinder. So they test rode the bike. One of them is a former world championship rider that won his world championships on Husqvarnas and Yamahas. So that should give you a hint. And the other guy was a Mako factory rider for life. They came back so impressed with the power of this motorcycle and were absolutely shocked when the engineer told them it was a 250 and not a 400. So that should give you a little idea as to what you're looking at here. It's quite an impressive bike. So let's see what we got under the hood here, and I hope you enjoy this walk around. Okay, so we're starting our walk around here of Harry Everts' 1975 250 World Championship Puch, known as the twin-carb. Like I said earlier, it's one of 4 bikes that were built that year, completely handmade. Every little part on this bike was hand built. The entire engine was hand built and is the genius of Hubert Binder. This was his concept. All handmade. All the cases were sand cast magnesium. Oh, look, I've never seen a countershaft with that many holes in it. Shift lever is machined out of billet titanium. It weighs nothing. They also had aluminum ones, and I got a lot of spare parts with this, or a fair amount of spare parts with this bike. One of the shift levers I have is aluminum. Twin, I believe they're 32 millimeter Bings. Not 100% sure on that. So you've got the nearby carb. There's piston port. Get a close look in there. See that? And then the other one feeds the rotary valve. Maximum power everywhere. That was the idea. So we'll go around to the other side, and there was the magic. The twin carb rotary valve. Okay. This kickstart lever there is billet titanium. This beautiful machine work. No CNC in those days. Motor mount bolts, pipe bracket bolts, all titanium. Heat shield. Not sure how effective that was. And I know I've heard it run, so the silencer is in that little skinny tube there, and it is not, the bike is very loud. Titanium swing arm pivot, thin wall chromoly frame and swing arm. You've got your Works Coney shocks. Harry told me that Frans Sigmans, he was a Dutch sand specialist who passed away several years ago, but he rode Huskies and Makos and all kinds of Yamahas, and he worked with Coney. These shocks were special made by Coney for Harry for this Puch, and Harry told me that Frans Sigmans was the first guy to work with Coney. And then later, you know, DeCoster, Pierre Cars makers, a lot of GP guys went, you know, had Coney make them shocks. Here you can see the rear wheel is complete sand cast magnesium. All the sprocket bolts. You can see the live centers. They're hand machined titanium bolts. The wheel spacer, billet titanium, chain adjuster bolts, titanium, shock bolts, titanium. It's interesting how the reservoirs were mounted to the frame with the hose clamps and those little rubber, looks like little pieces of rubber tubing. That was it. Come on this side, and just the simplicity stands out. Look at the little pin there to hold the brake torque arm on. You've got 3 optional pin locations for that. Your hand machined titanium bolts. The brake plate weighs nothing. It is like a piece of sheet metal, that backing plate. And we come over here. So everything mounts. That little piece of spring steel strap is the chain tensioner. So let me tweak that if I can. Yeah, see that? How that works? That's your chain tensioner. Now the frame bolts together. So you've got your down tubes bolt to the backbone in the steering stem area, and then you've got these braces that bolt. You can see they bolt to the frame, the down tubes to the backbone. Makes a little triangular section there. All this magnesium has this coating on it. Some of it's coming off. Very special bike. It's a pretty unique, I guess it's motoplat, well it is a motoplat ignition, but that spark plug cap. Okay, the wheels, front wheel, sand cast magnesium. These forks right here, according to Harry, Marzocchi only built a handful of these forks. And the unique feature of these forks, how to identify them or separate them from the other magnesium Marzocchi forks, is this casting. See how Marzocchi is cast right into the slider there. Harry said there were only, I think he told me 4 sets made or 6 sets. It's not many. Not many. And he said they were extremely lightweight, and everything in them was all hand made, every little part. Here the front backing plate, again, sand cast mag. You won't see, you look at this in a replica bike from 50 feet away and it's like, yeah, there it is, you know, there they are. But no, they're not there. This one is completely different. There's that casting again on the forks. All the thing in there is all titanium. The fenders were made by Falk in Germany. Okay. translucent. That's an official Puch front number plate right there. And they would paint their numbers on. It had a stencil. Triple clamps on this are sandcast magnesium. The pinch bolts you see there, the Allen head pinch bolts, those are titanium. Yeah, it's got that cobby look that the works bikes of the 70s have in a way, you know, and the Europeans were separate from the Japanese. Here's another interesting thing to think about. As I said earlier, look at those. As I said earlier, this team, the Puch team, with the task of winning the world championship, the 8 people that did this, think what they were going against. Suzuki was on top of the world. Joel Robert, Sylvain Gabors, Ole Peterson on this, you know, those ultralight Suzukis, which we have too. Yamaha now with that monoshock. Håkan Andersson is just, you know, on a tear, and he won in '73. But you know, this little 8-man team in a factory in Austria, what a task! And look what I mean. That was David and Goliath all the way. You start thinking about that, and this bike is very, very. I don't believe it has a pier. There it is in all its glory. Listen, this is our YouTube. We're doing this for YouTube. If you would, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us. I'm not sure in which way it does, but it does, they say. And also, I believe you get notified when we do more of these videos. So if you hit subscribe and hit that thumbs up button, it's kind of neat to see those mount, you know, get around 1,000 each time. We have less than 3,000 subscribers to our channel. 3,000 subscribers, and we're getting 1,000, you know, close to 1,000 thumbs up on these videos, and we don't have that many videos out there. We're brand new. This is a startup. So here's something neat before I sign off. Oh, by the way, this seat right there, see that little nut there on the stud? You take that off and the whole seat comes off, the air filter's exposed, and the gas tank comes off with that. In fact, before I sign off, I'm gonna pop that thing off and splice these videos together and let you see the air filter, the still air box, and all that. So we gotta look at that. Okay, I've taken the seat off, and you can see that little skinny little rod protruding out of the front of the seat. That rod there goes through that piece of canvas right there that's bolted to the back of the gas tank. So you take off that little nut on the back, you know, by the back fender of the seat, and you can take off, and then nothing now is holding the tank on, basically. This vinyl that you see here, this vinyl cover, that's your air box. So what the heck does that? Okay, so it's all Velcroed on, and there is the air filter right on top, and it mounts with one little 6mm stud onto this translucent still air box. And that's it. Is that simple? Saves a lot of weight too. And then right there you've got a twin carbureted boot that mounts to the still air box. And that kept all that very clean. Clean air going in there. Good clean air, made a lot of power. Pretty ingenious. Hey, before I sign off here, I just want to remind you again, there's the hat we sell. Look at that. 15,000 stitches make up the image of that bike there. It's all embroidered, made in the USA. We have two versions of it. The simple one that has that, and then we have the deluxe one that has Harry Everts on the left side of the hat, and then on the right side of the hat, this 1975 250 world champion. And when Harry saw that, man, send me some to Belgium. And I did, and he wears his all over the place. So he even was in Portugal recently and sent us a picture of him having, I think, a glass of wine somewhere at an outdoor cafe with his hat on. So go to our website, click the link below, and you'll see that. A gift shop where you can get those things. The other thing is, please hit the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up button. It just helps us all by doing that. We have we don't even have 3,000 subscribers yet, and on our videos we get almost 1,000 thumbs ups now all the time. People are commenting. Leave a comment there. Let us know what you think, and we'll keep doing these. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll have another bike coming for you real soon.